E pa mo na ave vi inga mal fa ni tanga yo tatu tua o na ua tatu o dia ni yaso. E va tu foi le fa tai I lau tua ta vai meni le ngate ne yaso ai mai se foi ia se tasi ia mai se le tatu o finga renga le radio Samoa I ton foi o Aotearoa. E whaaturo tu whai senga o whawhenga inga taulangi, whatawhai taulanga es o lea tunu. Mai se le tabo inga mamalu, ta mamtina mātutua wase ai mo a inga, ma Samoa. O tautua le nea tatu le tio tu sa atu ma United States of America, wa po iso si le fia I meo lo tupu e a fia I Samoa ma Samoa. Lo tau tau o mtau le I Samoa le nea tunu. O lo iei fo se I lunga le tatu le tio e le so. Se tasi o alo Samoa. Tony Meredith o se alo Samoa o te o United States of America ma lang I atoi le siva ta o le ballroom dancing. Man avea ma champini a wao I le United States o America. Mai silia ma se lau pine auro ma tulanga mo mua o ia au sia tau vanga o le ballroom dancing. Ma le tele o tau sanga na lua o ia le nei matata. I will switch over to English since this is I think Tony prefer me to be in English.
Yes, for
Aloha,
sure.
aloha. Tony Meredith is a
Uh,
professional ballroom dancer, choreographer, and United States professional Latin champion. Tony is the founder of Aloha Ballroom Company and a co-organizer of Aloha Ball, a one-day ballroom dance competition located in Waikiki. Prior to his moving to Hawaii in December 2023, Tony served for nearly 10 years as dance director of Danceville, United States, a ballroom dance studio located in Columbus, Ohio. Tony also has an expertise extends to film, TV shows, and Broadway, including feature film performances in Dance with Me, The Thomas Crown Affair, Let It Be Me, and The Last Days of Disco. He has co-hosted multiple seasons of PBS Public Broadcasting Service series America's Ballroom Challenge with both Mary Lou Henner and Mary Murphy. More recently, Tony Meredith and his former dance partner Melanie LePetin have appeared regularly as guest choreographers on the Fox Dance competition reality show So You Think You Can Dance. Tony has also choreographed for iconic celebrities including Madonna, Celine Dion, and much, much more. Talfalawa, Tony. Welcome to Radio
Tala-
Samo.
Thank you, Papatai Lava. So nice for you for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, I know people are looking at you said, maybe you should ask Tony about his journey, but, his upbringing and especially his Samoan side of the family. Can you take us in that journey?
Yes, I can take you on a bit of that journey. My great grandfather came to from England actually to Samoa and married my great grandmother, and she comes from a very large family. And then she has a she my grandfather or my grandmother has a title Atua Levau, and then it was passed on to my grandfather, and then it was passed on to my father. So he's well passed since then and everything. But growing up in Samoa, it was just such a great experience. Having the entire culture and not really realizing how valuable it was growing up there and the freedom that we had, and yet and yet you still had restrictions and responsibilities. But when you're that young, I moved there. We were here in Hawaii because my dad was in the Navy for several years, and then when he retired, we moved to Samoa, and we come from the village of Leone, and we me and my sister, my mom, and my dad. That was the four of us, and I grew up there going to Fialoa High School, middle school, and I went to Samoana High School, and I went to Leone High School. And you have that freedom of the whole island hiking and swimming and surfing and fishing. And my cousins live in Apia, so we would travel to Apia and visit my relatives there. And and having the food and the palusami and all the wonderful flavors of the fight I and all that cooking in the umu. It's like that. Those are the great memories I have. And singing. Everybody. My dad used to also play the guitar, so and the steel guitar and the ukulele, and he was always singing. So there was always music around the house, and there was always dancing and chanting, and so there was a real full cultural life there with a community of people that were always supporting each other. And I thought that that was such a wonderful thing. When I first moved there at 13, I went down and I joined the village, um, the, the village team so we could go to the April 1st for the Flag Day. So I
Hmm.
was like probably 85 pounds, I don't know, maybe 90 pounds, and the whole village was there. But I got on the team. They let me in, and so I was doing the salsa and the, all that in on the balai over there in downtown. So that was such a great experience. You oiled down with all the coconut oil, and you got all the tea leaves on you, and you got the whole community there. That was a great experience.
Hmm. That was through what, high school, huh? In Samoa.
At that time, I was at Fialoa, so I was like in eighth grade, and I
Hmm.
joined. I got to go into this team with everybody. With the village.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned in our introduction, what inspired you to start dancing, and how did you get into ballroom dancing?
Well, it's I when I was here in Hawaii, I always used to watch Bandstand and Soul Train, and so I also had started because we were around a lot of Polynesian. My dad played guitars. We were also at a lot of luau's, a lot of dancing, a lot of Tahitians. School here in Hawaii taught us how to keep rhythm with the bamboo, the Filipino sticks, and everything, and the Mayday. So I was always around dance, and I would always do shows. My dad said, "Okay, go dance for the family," and then me and my sister we would have to sing songs for everybody and entertain the family, and we'd get up and sing, and we'd get up and dance. But it was through those shows, those television shows, American Bandstand and Soul Train, that I learned how to do the moves. And my cousins would show, they would show me the new moves from the weekend, and we would show each other the moves, how it went. And I always just
Hmm.
had a knack for it. When I left and graduated high school from Leone High School, I moved to San Diego with my mom's side of the family, and they're
Hmm.
Hispanic,
Hmm.
Mexican, and Mexican Indian.
Hmm.
And my cousin was taking lessons from a dance studio, and she met this guy that she wanted to impress this guy, the teacher. So she said, "I need you to practice with me," right? And I think I was 19,
Hmm.
maybe, yeah. So so she showed me how to do the hustle, and hustle was at that time was the big dance, and there was partner dancing. So up to then, I was always dancing by myself or solo, but when I got into partner dancing, and I came with my slippers on, I came, just, if they say, off fresh off the boat, I guess, but they say. But she was showing me all the moves, and I just fell in love with it. And that's where it started, right there. And then the movie came out, Saturday Night Fever. The guy's name was Tony. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do. This is what I'm gonna do. Just dance. I just want to dance. It wasn't even like to go into ballrooms, just to do the hustle. I would go out every night dancing. My cousin and I would go to Tijuana and dance because you can get in underage over there.
Hmm.
So yeah, we had that kind of experience.
Hmm. And tell us how many different styles, because it's not just ballroom dancing. So, I mean,
Oh,
the most I know about ballroom dancing is program Dance with Stars. That's all I know.
yeah. There's about 22 different dances. From waltz, tango, quick step, Viennese waltz, um, tango. You've got cha cha, rumba, samba, mambo. I mean, there's a list. There's at least 22 dances that I know, and there's probably even new ones that are keep being discovered. With like bachata and all the salsas and the mambos. So I try to
Hmm.
stay current on all of them because I love music and I love the movement.
Hmm. And I don't see a lot of Samoans in ballroom dancing. And I mean, Samoans are into all kinds of dancing, from hip hop to
Yeah,
country and all kinds.
right.
But ballroom, I mean, do you have to be like small like you?
Well, I think there's a certain sense of flexibility and the ability to it's all about the way aesthetics plays a big part in it and everything. I was just in Japan, and I was watching these sumo wrestlers, because there's a Samoan sumo wrestler, right?
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Yeah, and I was like, I wouldn't be able to fit in that category. I wouldn't be able to fit into rugby or wrestling. I was like, this seems like the safest thing for me to be in, and I think I
Hmm.
love the entertainment part of it too.
You
But
know,
I think
during
I'm
your
maybe,
Mhm.
yeah. Go
Go
ahead. No,
ahead, go
I
ahead.
think I'm like one of maybe three people that are involved, Samoans that are in
Hmm.
ballroom dancing.
I mean, you've been at the top level, and what has been your most memorable performance? And if you rank one, your best two, can you take us to those top two experience?
My my top two. I was in second place for 12 years.
Hmm.
So my most memorable experience is when, and that performance that evening was just electric, and we won. And my mom and dad were watching. They supported me through this whole career of mine. And they said, "Did you win this year?" I said, "No, we were second." And he said, "Doggone it!" So they would always call to find out the results. They would always call to find out the results, and because they used to show it on PBS in Samoa.
Hmm.
So, but it was always delayed broadcast.
Hmm.
Anyway,
You know,
that year I won. I
wow.
He said, "Did you win?" I said, "We won." And they were so excited. That was really the best moment for me.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Have you ever incorporated any Samoan dancing movements of ballroom dancing?
Yes, yes, I do the slap dance in the Paso Doble.
Okay.
Pa-da-da-pa-pa-pa. I just give a, In fact, my dad even said, you should put some of that slap dance in your Paso Doble. I said, oh, maybe I'll do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. He was always a great supporter, great encourager, always called me champion, even though I was in second place. We did win several competitions around the United States. We won like over 100 championships, but that one title of being the United States champion was the one we wanted.
I know you won championship outside of the U.S. What would be one memorable one outside of the U.S.?
That would be in the Netherlands. It was a world trophy competition in the Netherlands, and we love those people. We love the the Dutch. They were just
Hmm.
so supportive of us, and they were. So we did this huge competition. It was a world event, so there was people from all over the different countries. But somehow we ended up doing the show. So
Hmm.
Melanie and I were the show for that evening. And when we were dancing and we were doing our last dance, which is called the jive, the
Hmm.
entire audience came and surrounded us in this circle. And we were like, we didn't know what to do. We were like, so we just kept dancing, and everybody was like clapping. I mean, that was such a high that we had so much love that they came and surrounded us and in this little circle to watch, to be in our energy and dancing.
Hmm. It's an amazing that
Yeah.
you're the only someone that I know of who is in the top of the world in ballroom dancing. But
Yeah.
being a minority in the United States, have there been times where you felt been discriminated against, or at least experienced some racial challenges in your journey?
I haven't. Not
Okay.
at all. It was always curiosity. It's like he's Samoan, he's like I don't know what they thought. I really don't know what they thought, but I'd never experienced any kind of
Yeah.
discrimination whatsoever. I
Okay.
felt like they actually, I always kind of like came in with love anyway. I always came in
Hmm.
with like
Yeah.
respect. Like, you learned that from as a Samoan. You respect my
Hmm.
coaches, my teachers, the other people, and
I,
you
I,
know,
I,
um,
because I interviewed a family with the three children who were all doctors, and I asked the same question, and they say the same thing. No, and I realized that they don't look Sama, they look Palangi, and
mhm.
that could be another thing. Am I making any sense there?
Oh, completely. Because I mean, look, I mean, I really have a lot of. I think I have a lot. When I look at my grandfather, my great grandfather, they have that European kind of appearance. So, and
Right.
then I'm like you said, I'm lean, I'm tall. Which guess that's from my mom's side. I'm not sure, but um, yeah, I wasn't sort of like pushed into a
Mhm.
concept of
Yeah.
what Samoan was. They actually
Yeah.
discovered Samoan was.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think
Because
they did. Yeah.
yeah, the first time I saw you when the local news channels,
Oh yeah.
showcased and your opening of, and I mean, every news channels covered you
Yeah.
from A to Z, every newspaper, and I was wondering, I said, gee, Meredith, that's a big Samoan family in Samoa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's been
there
around
are there,
generations.
mhm. Yeah, are there any Samoans doing well in the competitive dancing, especially ballroom, or it's just you?
I think it's just me and maybe two other, but they're teachers now. They're not necessarily. Although there are some great choreographers,
Hmm.
and the name escapes me right now, but I know he does a lot of choreography, and I think it's either for Janet Jackson or oh gosh, I apologize for not knowing his name, but it was just recently brought into my mind that or attention that there's a Samoan choreographer that
Hmm.
does these you know, video choreography and everything.
Hmm. What's your advice? Would you give aspiring young Samoans listening up there want to do what you're doing?
Well, what I'm doing. You got to go in and take a class. You got to go
Hmm.
in and I think when I was growing up too, I used to watch the Olympics. And I
Hmm.
think that also was a motivation for me is the discipline that these Olympian athletes have, whether they're like there's a Samoan that just won the disc here at the Olympics.
Alex Melee Rose.
Yes,
Hmm. In
and
fact,
I mean,
go ahead.
but it takes that kind of discipline, and that kind of mentality to like um give it your all. When I made the choice that I would want to go in this direction, I called my dad first. I said, "That's what I want to do." And I was working at this computer firm. He says, "Is that what you want to do?" I said, "Yeah, I really want to do that." He said, "Okay, well, you have my blessing." And I think just from that, I just ran with it. I started
Hmm.
working out. I started going to the gym. I found a great partner. I had a great dance partner. I mean,
Hmm.
without her, it takes two. But
Hmm.
she drove me to like we drove each other, to go in,
Yeah,
rehearse 10 a.m., go to the gym, practice, and then teach. And I think
it's,
it's what they say: surround yourself with successful people or success.
yes.
You know, who do you surround yourself with? Because I had the best
Hmm.
mentors. I was in a position where I looked up to these people, and they
Yeah,
were champions. They were.
it's
I was with champions.
it's a different set of mentality and
Yeah.
attitude. I
Yeah.
interviewed Greg Louganis, the diver,
Wow.
and Junior Seau, who passed
Yeah.
away, was
Yeah.
the, and that's the same thing they say. And
Yeah.
Tony Meredith, you're an amazing
Oh,
person. You're a great role model for our Samoan community. And I wanted to thank you for
wow.
honoring us to appear on our program, Radio Samoa.
Thank you.
And I'll give you
Thank
these
you.
final moments for you to say some final thoughts on your journey, and also any advice or anything that I haven't asked that you feel it's important to say before we end our interview this morning.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate that. I think I just want to say, there from those names that you just mentioned, Greg Louganis and Junior Seau, and you know, I feel like there's a Samoan movement that's going into the front of like we're just as competitive as any other country, and we've got the ability. And I think when I see that out there, I feel so proud because um, you see the culture shining brightly. And I have to include my sister Regina Meredith because she's holding the traditions of Tapa along with my brother-in-law Sua Fitiao Willisone Fitiao, and they've just opened a at the Field Museum in Chicago and they've taken all of the artifacts, all of the tapas, and they put it in the museum. It's going to be there for 2 years.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I really feel like there's a strong movement, or
Thank
at
you.
least
Yeah.
a
Yes.
great respect for Samoans. And I know that, if you respect yourself, which I really believe we all do, and encourage each other, I mean, I know how proud we are when the results come in that, like, yeah, we're doing it
All
as
right.
a island, as islanders.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you, Tony
Thank you.
Meredith,
Thank you,
for
Daniel.
having the time with us. Yes, Hamoai, o tato poklame na i nei fuitaya o stanonga malsunga Tony Meredith. Ai fui se upasala ale au ona ma dua vai e porto level tautai ai fui teimi se lana tu yama ai mo le nei taia. Soifu.